London cabbies have been staging a protest in the capital this afternoon, bringing traffic in central London to a standstill. The action is part of a worldwide coordinated demonstration against a new smartphone app called Uber, which helps passengers find a rival minicab. Black cabbies claim this is illegal because it calculates a fare similar to a meter, which they say only licensed taxis can carry. Our correspondent Daniel Bircher has been in Trafalgar Square, which was the focus for much of the protest over the course of the afternoon. Give us a sense of what people have been saying to you there, Daniel.
Well, traffic is moving now, but you can still hear the noise behind me. You can probably just see the lines of taxis backing up Whitehall there for quite a while this afternoon. Most of the roads leading into Trafalgar Square here were at a standstill as those lines and lines of taxis were stopping the traffic, many of them sounding their horns. Now, as you say there, a lot of the focus has been on this app Uber, which the licensed taxi drivers, the black cabbies, are saying is effectively a meter, and that only they should be allowed to use something like that. But organisers say it's actually far wider than that. I'm joined by Steve McNamara from the Licensed Taxi Drivers Association. Firstly, are you happy that you've achieved what you set out to do, causing this disruption in London?
We didn't set out to cause disruption. We've set out to make a point. We've given everybody plenty of notice of today's action. We picked a midweek. We avoided the rush hour to minimise disruption to Londoners.
But there clearly has been a lot of disruption.
There has been disruption, and I'm very pleased with the turnout. The figure being quoted by the police earlier is 10,000 taxis. It could be more. I'm very pleased with the turnout. What I'm not very pleased with is the way that Boris Johnson, the Mayor of London, has this afternoon decided to use the police force in London as a political army and served taxi drivers with public order notices. These are the things that are normally reserved for extreme militant groups, football crowds. These are the sort of people who are going to cause trouble, not 10,000 fit and proper persons who are licensed to apply for hire in London being threatened with arrest for being on the streets of London. It's an absolute outrage what's taken place in London today.
Were there actually any arrests as far as you know?
I understand there's been 2 arrests. I don't know what they're for. We've got lawyers currently looking at it. The situation where all we're doing, we're saying to Transport for London, enforce the law equally to everyone, irrespective of financial status, irrespective of political and clout, enforce the law equally. And Boris Johnson's response is to, some of the policemen we've spoken to here this afternoon are actually embarrassed to be here. They've been told they've got to have a positive arrest policy, and they're embarrassed to have it because they can see that the taxi drivers here are not the sort of people they should be arresting.
But there was initially a condition that you should only be allowed to do this between 2 and 3. It went on much longer than that, so you were allowed to go outside of those rules.
The point is, why should we be served a public order notice in the first place? They're normally reserved, as I say, for extreme political groups. I personally have been threatened with arrest for allegedly organising this afternoon. It's outrageous.
Going back to this issue of licensing, if there is new technology, new ways of doing things that perhaps threaten the livelihood of your members, is this not just times moving on, technology moving on?
Absolutely. It's nothing to do with technology. Some of the taxis behind you have been using apps for 2 years. Lots of the minicab firms use apps. The difference between the taxis here and the other minicab firms in London is they all operate legally. We've got nothing against this particular minicab company Uber. What we're saying is they should have to apply to the same rules as everyone else. Why are they exempt?
Now, TfL wants the High Court to decide on this matter. Why don't you wait for it to go through that legal process to see what the outcome of that is?
Well, my lawyers tell me it will be a unique case in a High Court declaration when a criminal matter is decided that way. This is a criminal offence. The correct way to...
In your view?
No, it's a criminal offence. Not my view, it's a criminal offence. The Private Hire Vehicles Act of 1998 makes using a meter a criminal offence. And the specific way to deal with a criminal offence is you run it through a magistrate's court, the appeal courts.
The point here is the question of whether it is a meter or isn't, because the legislation predates this technology.
No, the legislation doesn't predate this technology. I've got suits older than this legislation. This legislation is 1998. It doesn't predate the technology. Hansard's is very clear, the Act is very clear. TfL are choosing to try and find ways out of enforcing it.
Steve McNamara, many thanks. Well, Uber has issued a statement this afternoon. It says it's actually had the biggest day of sign-ups in London since its launch 2 years ago. It has called this action unnecessary and irresponsible. It also says that they passed TfL's most stringent and comprehensive audit of a private hire vehicle operator to date, passing that with flying colours.
Daniel, thank you. Daniel Bircher there in central London.